Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call our meeting together for the Akron Rotary Club. And today happens to be the second day of spring since they moved it to the 20th. And as we start, I would like to call past president, past district president, Jack Herrig, up for the invocation. Hello, Jack. Good to see you.
I'm not a tall people. Shall we pause and clear our hearts for a moment? Our Father God, you come to us in so many different ways, under so many different names, possibly under different images to each other, differing to some of us. We thank you for being with us. We thank you for creation. We thank you for the gift of service and the gift of those who serve around us. We ask you to be with everyone in this meeting, including our speaker, and especially be with us at a meeting following this where decisions will be made on recommending grants that will change people's lives. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
And please remain standing as we do our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now our four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right, thank you. You may be seated. Well, we do have a good day planned here this afternoon, and I'm going to ask Dan Remenschneider, because he is our greeter today, if he would let us know of our guests. And then Dan, when you finish up, I'd like to ask you if you would lead us in some happy dollars, if you'd be willing to do that.
I don't know if I have any happy dollars.
I can sponsor.
All right. So we have, I have a guest today. It's Waisine Lee. She's a staff accountant at CLA. She's super smart, awesome. Connor has a guest online.
Not me personally.
Yes, I'll go ahead and introduce Helen Meeker, if you'd like to introduce yourself and talk about who asked you to come today.
My name is Heather Meeker. I am the Executive Director of Summit Art Space, and I actually know Michelle Charles, and she invited me to speak with Rotary down in Canton recently, and I'm interested in becoming a member of the Akron chapter, and so she and I are working on that sponsorship. I'm delighted to be here this morning.
Okay, and Jerry has two guests, one being the speaker, which I presume she'll introduce in a little bit. Is that you, Greta? Colleen Kelly is her other guest from Summit County Executive's office. That's all our greeters.
You're on the spot, you
guest. All right, I'll take two. I'll pay you back. So I'm happy that I'm less than 30 days away from the end of tax season. That's one of them. I'm happy that Wee's with me today. She's the best. So, anybody else happy?
Yeah, it's not working today. Yeah, it's still bringing it feels more official. Dude, I'm happy today because I'm moving forward. 13 weeks.
So in case you didn't hear that out there in Zoom land, Hugh is happy because he's going to Florida in a few days.
Hi everyone, I'm very happy because we're leaving on Saturday for Iceland and Kimberly gets her passport.
Wow.
So she applied for 65
Wow, Julie.
Your prayers and good vibes on that.
Julie just announced that she's happy because she is going to Iceland and they are awaiting, hopefully, Kimberly's passport. And I'm guessing, are you going to try and see the Aurora Borealis? Ooh, love it. We'll have a great trip.
I'm happy, I got to meet Lucy, and she's helping with some of our relative tax returns. And I'm happy for April 26th, Wednesday is the fourth Wednesday. We're doing the Akron Food Project at 4:30 to 6:30, and an email will be coming out, I think, the first week of April. So look for that, and if you I'd love to see you.
For those of you online, David was just announcing that we are having our Rotary time of serving at the food bank on April the 26th from 4:30 to 6:30.
I'm happy that I have a valid passport, not have to take the seat.
Oh, we got a character here. You didn't hear this, but Dr. Doug said he was happy at $5 happy dollars, and he would be willing to take Kimberly's place in going to Iceland with Julie. What a great guy.
Welcome. That doesn't work.
Good afternoon. I have two happy dollars. First of all, my happy dollar is for Virginia, doing so well. She's driving again and all, so wonderful as my sponsor for a long time. And also, I'm very happy that to see the speaker, Greta. I know she's got great information, she's going to do a great job. Thank you.
So I have two happy dollars. First, I'm happy to see my first time. But that we like to be guys, and that's how slowly I'm the conversation. And the second dollar is able to visit China this year to go back home to visit my parents in November.
Oh, wow. And Dan, please forgive me, but sweetheart, your name again? Wei Singh just gave a couple of happy dollars, and she said that she's going to have the opportunity to go back to China. And you said you haven't been in 11 years? 7 years. Okay, well, congratulations on that for you. Is anybody else happy today? Okay, Doug Cole.
A couple of happy dollars here. I just want to say that last night at the Akron Public Schools School Board meeting, my grandkids were there, my kids were there, they're holding up, I just opened Instagram, they're holding up signs. And my grandson is at the STEM school, and my granddaughter is a second generation at Miller South.
Wow.
And I just pray that everybody reaches out and supports Akron Public Schools. My kids are products of the Akron Public Schools, and we need to be careful in how we structure this unique thing. You know, the two programs that attract people from other communities and bring their dollars into Akron, we shouldn't be messing with those. But I'm really pleased that my kids were out there supporting the cause and my grandkids. So, some of my happy dollars.
Okay, and Doug was, thank you, Doug. For those of you online, Doug was talking about his joy in his family, and he was talking about the event of looking to salvage, as it were, Miller South, and the important role that it plays in our city. So is there a vote coming up on that soon here, Doug? Doug, is there a vote coming up on this soon?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
I think,
Malcolm?
yeah, I was at the meeting, but I think they have a short window to be able to use the funds, so they're trying to move it along. So the next week, or the most 2 weeks, they'll be voting.
Okay. Malcolm was just saying for those online that these next couple of weeks are going to be important because a vote will be coming up, but that Miller South is looking to wisely use the remaining funds that they have in helping our children. So thank you for sharing that, Malcolm. I have two happy dollars. One of them, well, actually both of them pertain to the Dragon Boat races that'll be coming up here before too long. And I just want to say a hearty thank you to Brian Casarco, who heads that up, and also for Susan Colville Hall and her involvement with the Dragon Boat. And that is a fantastic service project. And for our visitors, it's in support of women fighting and overcoming breast cancer. And it's a marvelous event that takes place out of Portage Lakes. And that'll be coming up very, very soon. So thank you for them. I have a question. Do we have any Rotary ambassadors in the room? Anybody? Well, Miss Julie?
I'll just remind everyone about the district conference, April 29th and 30th. Marriott, if you're not sure to speak about it, here's some now to remind you. We have some local talent filling our pipeline of cannabis for weekend. Megan Clyden with behavioral health, and Amy David, one of our fellow Rotarians from the ADF Porch, both of us coming with analysts about mental health. I don't know. I think you can watch those website, Rotary District 6630.org.
Okay.
And registrations there now.
And once again, for everyone online, Julie was just bringing us up to date on the district conference, which is coming up April 28th and 29th at the Marriott Cleveland East on Harvard Road. And reservations can be made now. I'd also like, Stu, would you come up for 1 minute? I want to have you just share a little bit about last week, the Cavaliers game, and the fine work that you did in organizing that for our district. So come on up for a second. You sure? Okay.
We had 80 people come to the Cavs game. We had all 7 Rotary Youth Exchange teams were there. It was a night for them to see basketball. So we had a little pre-game reception at the meeting and after the game. Youth Exchange team, there's an internet student from Strongsville. We're down on the floor pre-game and did a high five. So they were really excited about that.
Well, thank you for all of your hard work, but that was a fabulous evening. And again, forgive me because I want our folks online to be able to know, but Stu was sharing about the success of last Wednesday night up at watching the Cavaliers. It used to be Quicken Loans. What is it now? Rocket Mortgage. And 80 Rotarians with some of the Youth Exchange students. And even though the Cavaliers did not win, it was a great evening, lots of fun had by all, and I was privileged to take a couple Ukrainian refugees who are big basketball fans, and they thought they had died and gone to heaven. So thank you for all you did in pulling that off. Sandy, would you be kind enough just to come up for a minute and make a very brief announcement about the grant committee? Would you be willing to do that?
Sure.
The only reason I'm having you come up here is because you've been hard at work over the last many months with this, and we have a number of people that responded as far as filling out applications. And this dear lady does so much work behind the scenes, you would never really know, but it's very, very thorough. So thank you.
Thank you. So we ended up with 14 applications from various charities and organizations throughout the greater Akron community. Today, after the meeting, the grant committee will do some work to we'll verify eligibility, and then we will discuss and possibly make recommendations to the board of directors. It's the board of directors' decision ultimately who will receive the funding, and this year, as you know, we changed the process just a little bit, and so the funds that are made possible through the Akron Rotary Foundation will fund these the chosen charity. It always has to include Rotary involvement, so there'll be some service projects that happen because of the chosen charities. And I guess one other thing, we will also, from this group of 14, select one of them to go on to be our district grant application. So lots of opportunities to make the community better, and you'll hear more after the board makes its final decision in April.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Thank you. And Mr. Terry Dalton, I was wondering, since you're online and you do such a fine job every week in helping us with Zoom, if you would be willing to share with us about the Youth Scholarship Dinner, which is coming up on April the 25th.
Terry had to jump off, so he had somebody come to his house unexpectedly early. But I can tell you that the reservations are open, so you can go online and reserve your spot. That evening scholarship dinner will replace our regularly scheduled weekly meeting. So we hope to see all of you there. It will be at the Greek Annunciation Church, where we standardly meet, and we hope you'll all come and celebrate these students.
Hey, thank you so much, Cheryl. And if you've never had the opportunity to attend one of those dinners, I would strongly encourage you to attend. Some of these kids that actually get the scholarship, they would blow your minds as far as how gifted and how skilled they are and how hard they have worked in their high school years. So April the 25th will be that dinner, and it'll take place here. At this time, I would like to have Peter Ryerson come up, and I'm going to grab your badge over here, and we're going to induct you today. Peter actually is no newbie to Rotary. He has served in other clubs, and it's our honor to induct you into the Akron Rotary Club today. And as you well know, Peter, the foundation of Rotary is service, and our principal motto is and has been service above self. It's the goal of our club and Rotary clubs worldwide, which consist of 1.4 million people, to encourage and foster this ideal of service. You've been approved for membership because we know you to be interested in upholding this ideal in spirit and in action. We have confidence that you will strengthen this club. So, fellow Rotarians, I ask that you freely give your friendship and your guidance to Peter to help integrate him into his new home, as it were. And so, if you would, please, I want to present this to you, Peter, that you would accept your name badge. Thank you. You're welcome. And your Rotary pin, if I may. The nice thing is it's magnetic. No holes. Akron Rotarians, please join me in welcoming Peter Ryerson, the world's newest Rotarian in some respects, but an old timer as a Rotarian. And so welcome to Peter. And Peter, if you would kindly share just a couple minutes with the club, a little bit about yourself.
Not tall enough for this. It's good to be here. I've heard about you at Rotary for years, but always been too busy. And now I have more time available. We're married next week. At the end of the week, Nan and I are celebrating our 60th wedding anniversary. All of the same woman. We had two boys. Steve lives in Columbus, but David came home from Costa Rica. He flew back with the woman he got engaged to that day, and she went up to Rochester where she lives, and we'd known her for a long time, and he flew into Columbus, but United Airlines had a problem, and it was a bad crash. So we're down to one child there. And so we're doing well. You never get over something like that. But I've been involved with a lot of different things, had my own business, worked a lot in healthcare, abused a lot of people, but made a lot of money for hospitals. And it's a pleasure to be here. And Dan, thank you very much for bringing me in.
Bless you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Trevor.
Peter didn't mention all he does for veterans.
Well, tell us about all he does for veterans. You want to tell us?
In '89, I got a notice that said, you are being requested to go into the Army. I did so. Went down to Tank Hill in South Carolina. To the second 8 weeks afterwards, and then after that to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And then all of a sudden I got a request. The CEO had said, go get all your shots. And then I went to Korea. I was in the line. I was not liked. It was a very good shot. And survived that and came back and then met my wife. And after that, put together a cedar chest for her for Christmas. Cedar chest is about that long, about that high and that wide. I don't know how I got it into the Volkswagen I had, but I drove from Philadelphia down to Virginia to give it to her for Christmas, and we still have it.
Wonderful. All right.
Thank you.
And our deepest condolences regarding your son's accident. And God bless you for 60 years of marriage you'll be celebrating here in a week. So congratulations. All right. Does anyone else have any announcement to make? All right. At this time, then, I would like to invite you up, Ms. Cherry, to introduce today's speaker.
Good afternoon. I am introducing Greta Johnson, Assistant Chief of Staff and Director of Communications in the Office of Summit County Executive Ilene Shapiro. Greta grew up in Wellington, Ohio, and moved to Akron more than 20 years ago to pursue higher education at the University of Akron, where she received a Bachelor of Arts, magna cum laude in secondary education, a Master of Arts in higher education, and her Juris Doctor. During her days as an undergrad, she played varsity volleyball for the Zips. During graduate school, Greta served as a graduate assistant in the athletics department administration. Upon graduation from law school, Greta spent over 10 years as a successful criminal prosecuting attorney. She was then elected to the Ohio House of Representatives in 2014, serving the residents of Akron and Barberton. While in the State House, she was appointed the ranking member for the House Judiciary Committee and also served on the committees for Veterans Affairs, Transportation, and Education, and was a member of the Joint Committee on Agency Rule Review. During her service in the legislature, she was an outspoken advocate for women, healthcare access, and victims of crime. During her first term, Greta was named the National Association of Social Workers Public Elected Official of the Year. She also sponsored and offered legislation to streamline criminal sentencing procedures that was signed into law in 2016. After being reelected in 2016, Greta then stepped down from office to work for Summit County Executive Ilene Shapiro, who extends her greetings. She is not here. She has a little touch of a little bug. Greta now serves as the Assistant Chief of Staff, Director of the Department of Administration and Public Information for the Executive's Office. Greta's work on litigation brought about by the opioid epidemic helped secure a settlement for Summit County of over $100 million. Greta has served as a board member for Downtown Akron Partnership, the Akron Children's Museum, as a member of the Summit County Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Coalitions, and as a board member for Planned Parenthood Advocates of Ohio. She is a regular volunteer for the Akron Pride Festival, coaches her daughters in whatever sports they are playing, and in 2018, she was selected as an honoree for induction into the University of Akron Athletics Hall of Fame. In 2021, Greta received the Athena Akron Leadership Award. Greta?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm going to, let's see if I can get this right. Share the screen here. Just trying to run the slideshow now. Let's see, there we go. Dang it. I'm going home now. I got that right. Okay, it's hard to see. Certainly if you'd like to see the full slideshow, I'm happy to share it with our host here. Thank you so much for inviting the executive's office. Again, my name is Greta Johnson. I work for Executive Shapiro. I'm going to try and be mindful of staying behind the podium, but I'm going to tend to move a lot, so feel free to yell at me, especially online folks if you can't hear me. My phone rang this morning at 6:42 a.m. and it was the boss lady. That's not a good way to start the day. And when I answered the phone, it was this, hello. So she is very sorry to not be here with you today, but she is under the weather and has been for a couple of days. And I'm sure, either you or someone in your family has had whatever this strain of crud is. So she sends her greetings, hopes that you'll invite her personally back. I've been working for the executive now, it will be 6 years this weekend, which feels crazy to me. And I have to tell you, I've been in public service my entire career, and I did really good things in the prosecutor's office, very proud of the work I did as a state representative. What I am most proud of is what we do every day in the executive's office, which is we touch people on many of their worst days. We are the social service safety net and public safety net for 540,000 residents here in Summit County. So the presentation I have for you today is sort of a mini state of the county. I'm going to talk fast because we do a lot of stuff. I welcome your questions. I'm a person who I'm happy to stand up here and talk at you for the next 30 minutes. I'm an attorney, I'm a woman. It's kind of, my favorite thing in the world to have a captive audience. I would much rather talk about what you want to talk about. So if as I'm going through this, if there are specific items you've got questions about, please, I would like for this to be interactive. Otherwise, you'll be tired of hearing everything that I have to say. Colleen Kelly is here from the executive's office as well. She's really the brains of the operation in my department. We are a very collaborative organization. My office, the Department of Communications, no more so than any other department that the executive has. So she's got all the answers as well. So feel free to reach out to her if after today you've got questions or we can be of assistance. So Summit County, sort of some facts and figures, 412 square miles, 540,000 residents, as I said. It's the fourth largest of Ohio's 88 counties, although Montgomery is sort of threatening us with this last census as far as population-wise. We are the first charter government, county charter government in the state, and then Cuyahoga County thought we were doing a pretty good job, and they decided to do that about 12 years ago. We do review our charter every 5 years. That's actually coming up in 2024. If anyone's interested in participating in the Charter Review Committee, please see me. We're always looking for good members of that. What that means is we look at the way the county is set up, Do the rules and regulations still make sense in the way they were first established? And are there any changes we should put out to the electorate to make a decision? Akron is obviously the county seat of Summit County. We've got 30 other communities. I think sometimes folks interchange City of Akron, County of Summit. They sort of say the same thing for both entities, but there are 31 communities in Summit County. You'll see we've got 14 cities, 8 villages, and 9 townships. I mean, we've got Reminderville, Clinton, Copley, Akron, Barberton. Greene actually surpassed Barberton in this last census as far as population. So our cities have grown. Y'all kind of know what a county is. But as I said, Summit and Cuyahoga are the only 2 counties in the state that have a charter form of government, meaning the other 86 have 3 county commissioners. Here in Summit County, we've got the county council. You have 8 members of 8 district members, 3 at-large members of county council, and then the executive. You can't really see it too well up here, but we're different than Cuyahoga County in so many amazing ways, not the least of which is that the county executive up in Cuyahoga County appoints everyone except the prosecutor. So the only 2 county elected officials countywide are the executive and the prosecutor. Here in Summit County, we've got the executive, the fiscal officer, the engineer, the clerk of courts, the prosecutor, the engineer, and then obviously we've got all of our county council members and the common pleas court judges. The judges fall under a little bit of a different purview, and Judge Michael can answer all those amazing questions. They are not charter offices, but obviously those common pleas court judges are elected countywide as well. So part of the weird dynamic that makes us such an integral partner to all of these county offices is we own and sort of maintain all of the buildings. So Judge Michael is the administrative judge of common pleas court now. So she's the boss judge, right? But the county executive has domain over the building. So we have to work together with the courts to make sure that we understand, you know, if there's inclement weather, if there are certain situations downtown that are unsafe for folks, how do we work together to make sure that people know can't go into the court, court needs to be closed, something like that. Certainly when the pandemic erupted, there was a lot of conversation with all of these different elected officials about what was the continuity of care, what was the continuity of services, how are we going to continue to give residents what they needed. The county's budget is kind of a big deal to me. We have a total budget of almost $640 million. So over $500 million on an annual basis is spent on county services. And that includes everything from, you know, our judicial budget, our special revenues funds, sewer services, job and family services, all of those functions that we provide. It's a lot of money that goes through county council and the county executive's office. The county executive, her primary job is budgetary and contractual. There isn't anyone else in county government who can sign a contract for services. So everything from, you know, who we buy the salt from to salt county roads, which construction company will be putting a new roof on at the jail, to, you know, who's buying the 2-ply at the courthouse. The county executive is the only person who can sign those contracts. So county council really serves as a finance committee first and foremost, so that any amount of money that's spent over $50,000 has to be taken to county council, and then the executive signs off on that. Within the executive's department alone, she's got 10 different departments, and everything from building maintenance, so our administrative services, public information, that's where Colleen and I are housed, although we kind of float around to many other places. We've got community and economic development. So anytime you hear about CDBG dollars being spent in communities, anytime you hear about home weatherization assistance, that comes through our community development. Economic development, obviously, we are charged at the county with workforce development. So we do a lot of work with our public schools, and I have to say I appreciate so much the comments that were made about Akron Public Schools. They are our biggest workforce, And anybody who still is working actively knows your number one concern right now is workforce. And so making sure that we keep a strong Akron Public Schools is critical to the success of our entire community. We've got a finance and budget department. Obviously, they spend all the money. That's where the bean counters are. Human resources. The executive's human resource director does the human resources services for nearly 3,000 county employees. Law and risk management, as it turns out, people sue the county. Bad things happen. We've got lots of employees. We've got a jail. We've got a juvenile detention facility. Anytime there's a lawsuit that's levied against the county or any of our employees in their official capacity, our law department handles that. Job and family services. So this is the social safety net, and this is where a lot of the direct service is provided from the county. Medicaid, SNAP benefits, TANF eligible families who receive services, that all goes through our job and family services. So millions and millions of dollars are spent on assisting those most vulnerable and those most at-risk individuals in our community. And it happens through our job and family services. Everything from providing grants and assistance to the food bank. I know someone had mentioned there's a food bank event coming up. We have been significantly partnered with the food bank, especially through the last few years. The onset of the pandemic saw people with some of the highest needs we've ever seen. That continues, and I will tell you that investing your time at the food bank is a great way to give to this community, because we have seen now SNAP benefits, so that direct food assistance that folks are provided. There was an increase in that during the pandemic, and that stopped in February. And so folks who had been budgeting and relying on that additional funding that was coming with their SNAP benefit, that's been cut. And so they're finding it challenging to sort of fill that gap. So we have done some additional work and some additional funding of the food bank. So I appreciate the work of this group specifically volunteering at the food bank. They're doing good work there. With the medical examiner, which I think sometimes people are like, what? In many counties, that is an elected coroner position. Summit County is unique in that we appoint that through the executive's office. And our medical examiner is a forensic pathologist, and that's part of our charter. All of the physicians we employ at the medical examiner's office are all forensic pathologists, which is a level of attainment and a level of education that goes beyond what is required of a county coroner. Listen, I think podiatrists are awesome. I personally feel I'd rather have an autopsy performed by somebody who has specialized training in forensic pathology than someone who's going to treat my bunions. But that's the way it operates in Summit County. Most counties have an elected coroner, and if you have, an MD, you are eligible to be the coroner. Obviously, our medical examiner does the autopsies with her other two physicians who are employed there. They testify in court. They, make these determinations that have in recent years been headline news. And so we are very lucky to have the staff that we do over there. We also have the public safety division. Our public safety director is charged with overseeing the entire criminal justice system, sort of making sure that all of those dots get connected, as well as community outreach on education. I spent today, started the morning with Mr. Costa, working with a group at Downtown Akron Partnership, where we were talking through what folks can expect as we approach a grand jury process this summer in the death of Jalen Walker. And so I spent my morning explaining the way the grand jury system works, because I think that's sort of an unknown commodity. People see Law and Order, they see crime shows. The grand jury process is far different than an actual trial process. Sanitary sewer services is the last department of the executive, the sexiest part of county government, sewers. But let me tell you, the first people we hear from if we're not doing a good job is sanitary sewer service customers. So we've got tens of thousands of customers we serve every day. So it really is a wide-ranging menu of services that the county government provides to our residents. So this is the executive with Dr. Para Jones over at Stark State, and her philosophy always has been strategic, facilitative and relationship driven. The executive likes to say, I don't really tell people what to do. I help them get to what we need to do, right? She likes to bring people to the table and get those conversations started. I always say that the superpower we have on the 8th floor of the Ohio building is if I call people and say, hey, we'd really like to have a meeting to discuss this, 99% of the time people show up. Now, we might not agree, and the folks who are trying to get to, from point A to point B might not agree on how to get there, but they always show up to have the conversation. So I truly believe that the executive's power really rests in her ability to be the convener of those important conversations. This is just some of the partners we work with, Direction Home. So we work with Direction Home really frequently. We saw in the census report this year, the largest growing population in Summit County are seniors, and that's a good thing. And part of our partnership with Direction Home is to ensure that seniors who want to age in home are able to stay in their homes. We work all the time with public health, never more so than over the last 3 years. I'm sure you all have heard from Donna Skoda, your public health director. If you have not, I'm just going to tell you now, invite her to come and be your next speaker. She is phenomenal. My parents moved from Lorain County to Summit County just a couple months before the pandemic broke. And it occurred to me into the summer of 2020, how grateful I was, not just that my parents were right around the corner from me personally, but that I knew they now lived in a community where I knew how intentional and thoughtful and brilliant the public health director was. But I am convinced that Summit County came out of the pandemic healthier and more robust than many other communities because of the leadership from public health and our ability to bring other people to the table to hear from Donna and her team. But as you'll see, Greater Akron Chamber, United Way, ADM, we partner with the United Way all the time, the Development Finance Authority, the list goes on and on. I feel really lucky to be in the office I'm in because my Rolodex is nice, right? It's really nice. If somebody says to me, hey, I'm really trying to get in touch with somebody over at Summit DD, that's an easy call to make. And I will tell you from the government level, you hear the buzzword, collaborative, collaboration, we're a collaborative community. It's not just a buzzword here. It really is demonstrative of the willingness of elected and community leaders to come together for the greater good. It happens every day. And you don't know me. I mean, a couple of you do. I know a couple of you here. But I can tell you, I've worked at the municipal level of government. I've worked at the county level of government. I've worked at the state level of government. Summit County is heads and shoulders above anywhere else I've worked. And I've had the opportunity and privilege to be in other counties in the state through my work. And Summit County gets it right way more often than not. And Colleen and I have joked, we go to these conventions and seminars where, other county commissioners are there and they're talking about the great things that they're doing. And we often look at each other and we go, we've been doing that for years. Summit County's been doing this for years. We've walked in where people are like, well, how do you get your ADM director to sit down with your nonprofits? And I'm like, we just ask them. Like, we just set a meeting and everybody shows up. So it's pretty remarkable when we get outside of ourselves to see how well we're really doing, because it's easy to get mired in this I did a quick check with some of my staff right before we came over here today because I felt super overwhelmed yesterday. It just feels like the work doesn't stop. And then I'm reminded that we're doing okay, especially when we look outside of Summit County. Again, we work with all of our local municipalities. During the early days of the pandemic, I often say, we didn't know what we didn't know. There was a lot of uncertainty and fear, and when you're kind of loud and out front all the time, people are looking at you like, okay, big mouth, what now? And so I did the only thing I know how to do, which is get people together and talk. I'm an over communicator. I believe that more communication is better and better is more and more is better. And so I started convening bi-weekly calls with all 31 communities where we had the mayors and trustees getting on a phone call twice a week, I knew that the public health commissioner was being inundated with questions, and I thought, well, if I put her on air for 1 hour and everybody can ask questions at that time, perhaps her phone will, lighten up throughout the rest of the week. And listen, we didn't even have a Zoom account. So it was a conference line where there was the bridge where, every time somebody called in, there was an announcement. So we've come a long way. We do that, we were doing that twice a week. We did it with the 31 communities, and we did a second call with all of our county electeds and county agencies. We have found now that one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that our communication and our two-way street with our communities is so much better. We have continued those calls. Now they're bi-weekly, which I feel like is a relief. But being able to bring people together with those common questions, not just about public health now, but about the community projects that we're doing, has been proven to be really invaluable. So county government has been a wild ride just in 6 years for me. It was super easy in 2017. We didn't have any money. So the answer was always no, right? Local government funds had been really systemically cut over the last 2 decades. And so we are still operating with more than 1,000 less employees than we were operating with in 2008. So the Great Recession came along, huge downsizing of county services, county staff. Well, not county services. We still do everything we did, just with less people. So it was pretty easy to be like, yeah, no, sorry, can't help you, we don't have any money. And then I came into the executive's office, I would say not hour one, but definitely day one. We need to sue the pharmaceutical companies. We need to be out front on the opioid epidemic, and it took some time. And I will say one of my favorite attributes of the county executive is she is a person who is willing to change her mind. And I think that is an undervalued characteristic of our leaders, right? Because so often we all dig our heels in like, no, I made up my mind and you're not going to convince me. And then we get so stuck in the quicksand of that decision that we're unwilling to even listen. She was like, yeah, I'm not interested in that. And then, she kept hearing from other people and hearing how it was impacting children's services and hearing how it was impacting just regular folks in the community. And she changed her mind. So long story long, I said we didn't have any money before. I'm sure there's an opioid slide in here that we'll get to. We received a large settlement from manufacturers and distributors. So now we've got this pot of opioid funds, but it can only be used for that particular purpose, right? Can't build a bridge with that. We're not going to do what was done with tobacco litigation funds. That we want to make sure that we are abating the epidemic that was created here in Summit County by the pharmaceutical industry. So we've got this money, and I'm like, oh, this is good. I can dig my teeth into this. This is something I feel like I've got some expertise on. We convene this group of stakeholders and experts, and their first meeting is set for March 13th, 2020. Well, that didn't go very well. So I always say I follow, Pretty Woman. I have all this money and no one will help me. So we pivoted immediately when the pandemic hit, and frankly, there's no better way to say it. The opioid money went on a back burner because we got $94 million of direct funding from the federal government through the CARES Fund. We spent it like drunk sailors because that's what we were told we had to do. We got it in the late spring, and there was a deadline of December 30th, not 31st, December 30th. So we had about 6 months to spend $94 million. Sounds like a great problem to have. It is, except we were managing an epidemic, a pandemic. We had 3,000 county employees. We didn't lay off a single person, and we were trying to keep everybody safe, and keep the courts open, and keep the jail safe. But I'm incredibly proud of what we did with the CARES Act funds, because we immediately tried to make sure that our community could still, I only have 5 minutes. Whoa, that went fast. We invested in small businesses. We invested in schools so that they could have technology. We invested in housing. We paid rent. We paid mortgage assistance, utility assistance. We provided grants to the library, to all of these nonprofits and arts organizations so they could stay whole for at least a little bit. And then when we got through that, we received just over 105 million in ARPA funds, so the American Rescue Plan Act. We looked at this very strategically. So the CARES Act funding, the executive uses tactical, and then we need to be strategic. I say we use Band-Aids and tourniquets first. That was the CARES Act funding. Like, how do we keep people alive and where they need to be? And then we needed to go surgical. Like, how do we really make a difference in this community? The one thing that stood out, especially early on, people didn't have access to reliable broadband. We had students who were standing outside McDonald's, students who were, getting put on school buses just to do work, right? That's not acceptable, not in this community. We have an obligation to do better for our folks. Everyone from, preschoolers to senior citizens should have access to quality, affordable broadband. So to that end, the biggest investment we're going to be making is in a fiber ring that will connect all 31 of our communities with high-speed internet. We're partnering with the Fairlawn Gig to help us with that. And the goal is then to have that intranet for our public safety forces, and then to bring in a private ISP, internet service provider, who will then be able to provide, again, quality, affordable internet services to residents and businesses as they see fit. I've never met anybody who's like, you know what? I love my internet provider. They do a bang up job. Customer service, wonderful. Reliability, off the charts. And let's be honest, people in this room, you all can afford that. You can afford the best of what is out there. And there are so many of our residents who cannot. And so it's not a regulated public utility. I don't know if it ever will be. So until that happens, the executive and our philosophy is we have an obligation to bring that to all of our residents and bridge that digital divide. So that's where our biggest investment will be. We're also making investments in, again, sexy stuff like sewer infrastructure. If anybody's familiar with Peninsula, it's a landlocked community. It's the gateway into the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. They don't have sewer or water, which is problematic for the people who live there and the few businesses that are right there in downtown. So because of the importance of that community and the national park, we're going to be making some significant investments there. Yes?
I was wondering in the remaining time if you would be willing to take any questions
Absolutely.
that people might have out there.
Thank you very much for those great presentations. Can you still reach out to county council interfaces with Akron City Council? As an example, Akron City Council is debating over an issue. Can county council weigh in or influence or override a decision it doesn't like?
No. So county council can only author and sign in ordinances that impact townships. So the only influence we have is just that, a soapbox. There's no structural ability for the county to override or overrule a city government and their decisions.
The money came in the government CARES Act. What was the other one?
The ARPA. Mm-hmm.
ARPA. Did the city get their own?
Yes.
Oh, so and how can you give me a comparison dollar-wise?
So the city got 100 and
We got more CARES than that.
We did.
got more ARPA though. I think their ARPA allocation is more around $120 million.
Yes.
I guess I'm asking, does that make sense? And did it make sense to you guys?
Yes, absolutely. So it was based on population. The CARES Act funding was like, it was the Wild West. They were just like, here's some money, good luck. Because again, we didn't know what we didn't know. It was on the precipice of a change in power at the federal level. And so there were not a lot of strings attached to it, which was good and bad. We kept waiting for additional guidance and we were kind of like, seems like it'll be okay. The ARPA money has far more structure to it, more guidance available so that we understand that if there's an audit, we feel very comfortable about the ways in which we're spending it. We felt that way about CARES too. It was just a little bit faster and looser, certainly at the beginning. But the city did receive their own. It was based on population and different indexes.
With the possible phase down of giveaways, how will that affect the county budget?
I guess I'm not sure what you mean, the giveaways.
Federal money's got to sooner or later fly out.
Yes.
How is that going to impact your overall budget and ability to function?
Well, here's what, we serve the most vulnerable folks. So as someone's benefit might be right here, and they were able to pay their, grocery bill, pay their rent. Now groceries are up here and rent is up here. So we are busy all the time. This money with the ARPA funds, I have often said to the executive, we're still doing all the jobs we were doing in February of 2020 with the same amount of people. And now we're taking on these enormous projects. We're building a fiber ring around the county. We didn't hire additional staff to do that. We're using some consultants who are experts in that, but we continue to do all of those same, government functions. So I would say it doesn't change our funding structure. We're funded by sales tax. So quick little fun fact, Summit County, lowest sales tax in the state of Ohio. We are unable to raise county sales tax without a vote of the electorate. The electorate was very clear in 2014 that they did not wish to see that be raised. So we continue to operate at a much lower cost per capita than any of the other urban communities by, I think by, I don't know, 40% even. It's crazy how much less we do. So I would tell you at some point, I expect to see sales tax revenue drop. It has not. I mean, we have monthly revenue meetings and I keep expecting you all know if you've tried to buy a house in the last couple of years, I did, it was bananas. So, that's how we're funded. These extra dollars from the federal government, we're going to spend those and do the community improvements that we've set out to do. There was one more question.
As a corollary to Jack's question, there's some talk now of making the state income tax a flat tax. Will that have any impact on county government that you're able to do?
Will you please repeat the question?
I am so sorry, I forgot to do that. I'm supposed to be repeating questions. The question was about the proposal in HB1 for a flat tax. It would change income tax rate. It would also change some property tax structure. I will tell you emphatically, the way it is written right now, it would be absolutely devastating to local communities, including Summit County, if it passes the way that it is structured now. Right now, you're all paying taxes on your property that help fund some of our levy agencies. There is a 10% offset with most of those levies. You will be paying likely more if you're a property owner. The offset doesn't math for me. There are lots of discussions about the ways in which that bill can be improved. But if you're unaware of it, I would encourage you to educate yourself about HB1. It will have critical impact to library, ADM, DD board, CSB, all of your levy funded agencies will be deeply and negatively impacted by HB1.
Your taxes might go up.
Yes, if you're a property owner, yes.
The upcoming charter revision review, that process, how lengthy is it? How much time is usually spent?
Sounds like you're really interested. I like that.
I'm thinking for my wife because of the way my wife thinks.
The question was about the Charter Review Commission. It's a year-long process, so we'll be asking folks here in the next couple of months if they would like the opportunity to join, and then our law department will staff that, and it will go on for about a year, and those recommendations would be made to county council so that if there are any ballot initiatives, they'd be on the ballot next fall.
Will it
in
be
24.
in-person meetings or Zoom meetings or a combination?
It would be in person. It's a public body.
Okay.
And so sunshine laws apply. And at this point, we do not have a charter amendment. Like the city of Akron, pre-COVID, I don't know if they had a crystal ball, they had a city charter amendment that allows for them to meet virtually. We do not have that. And so we're governed by the state sunshine laws, so we have to meet in person.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks, Jerry.
This is our Imagine coin.
Oh, Thank you.
And you help us to imagine great things for Summit County.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greta. This is wonderful. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our meeting for today. And just a short reminder for the grant committee, you will be meeting in this room right when we cease. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful, oh, I'm sorry, the Daily Lotto and the winner. Forgive me.
229516.
Julie Brandel for Iceland. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Greta. Thank you, Colleen, for coming and sharing with us. $11 in the pot. Have a great day.